seconded by the Honorable Member for Nalikwanda. The question is that the thanks of this Assembly be recorded for the exposition of public policy contained in His Excellency the President's address. Any debate? The Honorable Member for Chama South.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, let me begin, Mr. Speaker, by registering my sincere thanks to you for giving me this opportunity to move the motion of thanks to the address by the President of the Republic of Zambia, Mr. Hakainde Hichilema, to this August House on the progress made in the application of national values and principles as required in Article 9(2) of our Constitution. At the outset, allow me to congratulate the President on delivering an inspiring and well-thought-out speech. The premise of his speech, that national values and principles mold the character of our nation, influence our conduct as individuals and society, and guide the development and implementation of state policy, cannot be overemphasized. This is because it resonates very well with where we are as a country and the path we need to take in order to achieve our socio-economic developmental agenda. As a matter of fact, the President's address, though dictated by constitutional provision, could not have come at a better time than now, when we are experiencing high levels of moral decay, especially among the young people. With the increased usage of social media, we have seen a serious degradation in terms of our values, morals, and principles. Instead of using social media platforms and other information and communication technologies for good as it ought to be, many people have tended to use them for negative vices such as name-calling, slandering, cyberbullying, committing fraud, and sharing of misinformation. Unfortunately, this phenomenon is also taking place among political and social leaders, whom we hold in high esteem and are expected to be examples to our younger generation. Therefore, to hear the President pronounce himself on these critical issues not only gives us impetus to the promotion of national values and principles, but also has a positive bearing on our socio-economic development as a nation. Mr. Speaker, the President raised a number of issues in his address, but due to time constraints, I will only comment on a few, namely morality and ethics, patriotism and national unity, democracy and constitutionalism, and good governance and integrity. Mr. Speaker, on morality and ethics, it was clear that the President is concerned about high prevalence of early childhood marriages and teenage pregnancies in our country. I need to emphasize that the early child marriage and teenage pregnancy have long-lasting negative consequences on the lives of girls, especially in rural areas. They tend to have an adverse effect on their health, education, employment opportunities, and overall general well-being of girls. Therefore, it is imperative that as members of Parliament, together with other stakeholders, civil society organizations, traditional and religious leaders, we consolidate and double our efforts toward completely ending this vice. Honorable Speaker, one of the most effective ways to address child marriage and teen pregnancy is by investing in girls' education. When we enhance opportunities for girls to attain quality education, we empower them to pursue careers and financial independence, which in turn make them less vulnerable to being married off at a young age or indeed getting pregnant as teenagers. On this score alone, allow me to commend the President and his administration for their commitment towards improving access to quality education for all, including girls, as shown through the implementation of the free education policy, which has seen an increase in the number of children attending school. In addition, the recruitment of teachers distributed to all parts of the country, including the remotest parts, will significantly improve teacher-pupil ratio. Further, the construction of more classroom blocks and procurement of locally made desks through the Enhanced Constituent Development Fund meant to address the observed challenge of limited classroom space deserves our commendation. Honorable Speaker, let me now turn to the issue of patriotism and national unity. You will agree with me that the need for us to be patriotic and united so as to promote social harmony, cohesion, and solidarity towards achieving our developmental goals cannot be overemphasized. I therefore applaud the President, Mr. Hakainde Hichilema, for calling upon us as citizens not only to promote, but also, most importantly, own productive assets and businesses. This is the surest way of growing our economy, as well as hedging it against external shocks that have been negatively impacting our economy. In this vein, I commend the President, Mr. Hakainde Hichilema, for directing government agencies and departments such as Ministry of Health, Defense, Home Affairs and Internal Security to procure locally manufactured uniforms and other materials. As I commend this measure, I would like to urge government to consider gradually extending it to other ministries, departments and agencies. This will help our local industries to grow and in turn contribute to much needed job creation and economic development. Honorable Speaker, with respect to democracy and constitutionalism, allow me to appreciate government for putting in place measures to secure and entrench our democratic credentials. Notable among these are the enactment of Access to Information Act number 24 of 2023, among other things, provide for the right to access information, and enactment of Judicial Training Institute of Zambia Act number 14 of 2023, to strengthen the legal and institutional frameworks for upholding the rule of law. I should be quick to mention that the pursuit for enhanced democracy, as aforementioned, resonates well with the United Nations 2030 Agenda for Sustainable Development, which has recognized democracy as a prerequisite for attaining sustainable development. Honorable Speaker, sir, as I wind down, allow me to comment on the fight against corruption, which falls under the good governance and integrity theme. Certainly, corruption is a cancer that robs the country of the much-needed resources to facilitate development. In this regard, allow me to commend the President for his unchanging stance towards the fight against corruption. By its very nature, fighting corruption is difficult, but with determination and concerted effort, it can be won for the greater good of the Zambian people. I therefore urge him and all the structures that have been established to work hard and rid the country of this scourge. Honorable Speaker, with these few remarks, let me thank you once again for giving me this opportunity to move the motion. I urge my colleagues and the nation at large to work together in unity to develop our country for now and for future generations. Honorable Speaker, democracy and freedom of speech does not entail indiscipline and fighting each other. Even at our own household level, if a child becomes indisciplined, we whip. And the Bible commands that spare the rod and spoil your child, or spoil the rod and spare your child. Therefore, if we are to entrench democracy, we need to get rid of indiscipline. Honorable Speaker, with these few remarks, I beg to move.
Thank you very much. Does the seconder wish to speak now or later?
Now, Mr. Speaker.
The Honorable Member for Nalikwanda.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. In the first place, let me thank you for according me the opportunity to second the motion of thanks on the Republican President's speech on the progress made in the application of the national values and principles. Also, allow me to congratulate Mr. Davis Mungandu, Member of Parliament for Chairman South Conference, for ably moving the motion on the floor of the House. Mr. Speaker, I would like to state that the President's address captured many progressive aspects regarding the developments achieved by the United Party for National Development, UPND government, in line with Article 8 of the Constitution of Zambia on the national values and principles. Therefore, in seconding the motion, I'll unpack some of the important policy matters that the President addressed. Mr. Speaker, democracy and the constitutionalism. Mr. Speaker, let me commend the President for the desire to promote democracy, constitutionalism, and good governance in Zambia. Under his leadership, the Republican President prioritized the rule of law as a cornerstone to realizing peace and justice. Mr. Speaker, under this heading, we have seen the rebirth of democracy in the country. By this, I mean there's continuous registration of voters throughout the country. If you go to Chinsali today, you find people are obtaining their voters' cards. This entails whenever there will be an election, these people will be able to use their democratic right. In addition, Mr. Speaker, there's access to information. By this, I mean businessmen are able to register their own businesses, like radio stations and TVs. Currently, there are 44 radio stations which are likely to be licensed, and 18 TV stations which are likely to be licensed. These will be used by any person, NGOs, politicians, even commercial entities, to advertise their products. This way, we are seeing democracy at its best. Mr. Speaker, I will roll back and show you what is happening. In the previous government, this was not happening. Radio stations were being closed. Newspaper publications were being closed. To that effect, I will give you a detailed approach on which these people are doing. Post newspaper was closed on the 4th of November, 2016. Prime TV was closed on 10th April 2020. 15 May 2020, Info FM radio in Soka was attacked because one opposition leader was on radio. On 12th April 2014, Sun FM in Ndola was attacked because our current president now, by then he was in opposition, was attacked. So currently, I would say the president is walking the talk. We can see democracy at its best. The next item I would like to talk about is human dignity, equity, social justice, equality, and discrimination, and non-discrimination. I want to commend the president for reaffirming his government's commitment to upholding human dignity, equity, social justice, and equality and non-discrimination. How has the president done this? Mr. Speaker, today, if you go around the country, you'll find that each school has got teachers who were recruited from the various districts. Some of the teachers are yet to report, I think, next week. This was never attained in the previous government. This president has made it cheaper or affordable for any child to go to school by removing user fees. These days, no child is supposed to pay tuition fee, examination fees. Those are no longer in existence. From grade 1 up to grade 12. Even those who are at trade schools, CDF is paying for them. If you look at the structure of the education, now we have got ECE, primary, secondary. These are well structured, and even the curriculum has been prepared and to be, so that it can become international standard. Mr. Speaker, what else can we look for from a president? Education being a bedrock, it will transform economic development and job creation, which is expected drastically. We know there are challenges in our public schools, but this can be worked on by reducing funding these schools so that they can buy teaching materials and learning materials. This, when it's done, even the literacy levels of our children will go up. Mr. Speaker, I'll go to the next level. Sustainable development. Mr. Speaker, currently, I think the greatest threat in the world is climate change. Climate change is here. Like in Zambia, this year we are in trouble. It has affected the environment and food security. So people have to prepare themselves. This government, what it has done is they are trying to teach people climate smart agricultural policies which are not dependable on rainfed. In addition, this government has ensured that currently 645 trees have been planted to mitigate the effects of climate change. That's against a target of 2 million by 2028. Mr. Speaker, from this, what can someone say? I think the president is walking the talk. Because of time, Mr. Speaker, I'll try and see if I can maybe just conclude because because of time constraint, Mr. Speaker, let me conclude by reiterating the president's call for citizens to develop an urgent and a compelling duty to help uphold our national values and principles. As doing so, we will assure our nation of the development we aspire. I'm in full support of our Republican President's determination to heighten prosecution of offenders. I'm confident that with the President's determination, Zambia's development will progress to higher levels. Mr. Speaker, with these few words, I second.
Thank you. The Honorable Member for Chiruvi.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I forgive you.
I think there won't be any more point of orders, just as indicated by the first Deputy Speaker. You may proceed, Honourable Member.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I would like to start with the way the presidential speech was printed. If you peruse through, you find that it was printed by shorthorn printers. Government documents, especially of that sensitivity, are supposed to be printed by government printers. From what I have learned, that is just my first submission. Having said that, Anton, shut up. Having said that,
Honourable Member, what did you say?
Mr. Speaker, I expect to be protected.
You said shut up.
Yes, Mr. Speaker.
But you know that that is unparliamentary.
Yeah, but I'm not protected, Mr. Speaker. I expect to be protected when I stand. Everybody is shouting all over the place and I'm not protected.
No.
So I chose to protect myself.
May you take your seat? The next member, Honourable Member Fruena.
Yeah.
Mr. Speaker, the people of Luena are grateful for the opportunity to contribute to the debate on the motion moved by Honorable Member, Honorable Mungandu, on the speech that was delivered by the President to this August House, pursuant to Article 9 of the Constitution, which requires the President on an annual basis to come to this House and report. The Constitution requires actually that the President reports on the progress made on the implementation of the values and the principles enshrined in the Constitution. And for the records, our values and principles, Mr. Speaker, I'll quickly run through them so that we remind ourselves. Morality and ethics, patriotism and national unity, democracy and constitutionalism, human dignity, equity and social justice, equality and non-discrimination, good governance and integrity, and finally, sustainable development. Mr. Speaker, because of time constraints, I won't be able to debate all these aspects. I will just pick on a few of them. The first one being morality and ethics. What are we talking about when we are talking about morality? Because sometimes these words are used and people do not internalize them. And the signs of failure to internalize these principles in the Constitution are visible, sometimes even where they shouldn't be seen. Examples are abound. An Oxford Dictionary definition of morality as a noun says it is concerned with principles of distinguishing between the right and the wrong, or good and bad behavior. Mr. Speaker, it is expected that in a society that is living according to principles of just being human beings, we should be able to distinguish good behavior from bad behavior. A human being should just know that what I'm doing now is wrong. A leader who doesn't know how to behave in specific places, in particular places, is demonstrating a complete lack of morals. And the reason we have these morals enshrined in our Constitution, these principles enshrined in our Constitution, is so that we, as the members of this House, can actually reflect that example out onto the society there. So that the society that we represent becomes mirrored in what we display in this House. So we can't teach our people any morals if we can't demonstrate our internalization of those morals and ethics here or in the way we carry out our duties and functions. So, Mr. Speaker, the starting point is ourselves to internalize this. It is no wonder the President always reminds the nation that one of his first missions when he took over the running of this country was to bring sanity in the way we do our politics in this country by bringing in law and order. Today, it's looking strange when you see members of different political parties, ruling and opposition, crisscrossing, paths crossing each other as they campaign for political positions, as they campaign in by-elections in particular. And I'm aware that even in my constituency, very soon there will be a by-election coming up, and the members of the opposition will be free to come and campaign, knowing very well that they are going to lose anyway in Dandawad. But they are free to come and campaign because the country does not have any no-go area zones for anybody. That is the morality and the ethical behavior that's expected from a country that has embraced democracy as a way of governing itself. Let me deal with just one other aspect, Mr. Speaker, that is important for the purpose of my debate, which is human dignity, equity, and social justice. Mr. Speaker, sometimes we take these things for granted. We think human dignity is some abstract concept that is only applicable if you are not physically harming another human being. I want to remind ourselves here that there is no dignity for a parent who is unable to take his child to school. There is no dignity for a parent who cannot feed his family. There is no dignity for a family or a parent who cannot access medical attention for their loved one when they are sick. And what this government has put in place is to inject and bring back that dignity in families. Not only in towns, as it has been the tendency over many, many years, but right into our rural areas. It's for that reason the decision to increase CDF and incorporate the grants component that our mothers and fathers in our villages are able to access and do a little business is an effort to bring in dignity in their lives. And that should be appreciated by all well-meaning citizens. Mr. Speaker, children that were learning under trees, maybe some people only know this concept of learning under trees as a concept. It has been a reality for millions and millions of our people in this country for years. But for once, over 2 years only, so many classrooms, over 200, have been built within just 2 years around the country. When you compare with the previous years, you will find that over 10 years, they couldn't exceed that number. And that is giving our people dignity in their local communities. Mr. Speaker, the people of Rena, therefore, are fully appreciative and would like to support and accept the speech that was delivered by the President to this House as a good progress report. And we therefore give him a distinction, and we look forward to his coming back to this House next year as we will be celebrating more achievements that this government would have delivered over the next 1 year. With these few words, we would like to say thank you very much, Mr. Speaker.
The Honourable Member for Namwala.
Thank you so very much, Mr. Speaker, for giving me this opportunity to add 2 or 3 sentences to this very important motion which is on the floor of this House today. Mr. Speaker, we are very grateful to the submissions which were made by the President on Friday. There are a couple of issues that the President indicated to this House. However, Mr. Speaker, just allow me to look at the issue of constitutionalism and democracy. Mr. Speaker, democracy are only alive when people look at issues that involves good governance. And it's from good governance that, Mr. Speaker, it will give rise to the constitutionalism or democracy that we are going to talk about today. Before that, Mr. Speaker, allow me to indicate that the President, from the time he started coming to this House, there are 3 things that he has always not forgotten to mention. These words, Mr. Speaker, are unity, hard work, and development. Mr. Speaker, for this country to get to where we want, the people of this republic want to be united, work together, and then we'll be able to see the development we're talking about. Mr. Speaker, the issue of governance, the President actually labored because I think it's very important that we all get to understand what democracy is, because people have been talking that, or mentioned that the democratic space in this country has shrinked when... Thank you. However, Mr. Speaker, I think I'm on the floor. Mr. Speaker, the President indicated that we have an obligation as a state or members of parliament, as representatives of the people, to ensure that we drive what will help us to attain what we call democracy in this country. Yeah. Mr. Speaker, when you look at the issues or the tenets of good governance that will give us what we call democracy, the issues of accountability. In the New Dawn government, Mr. Speaker, people agree with me that actually from the time we took over, the issue of accountability is at the core. At the core in the sense that the people that we are leading now ought to understand where we are, of course where we came from, and where we are going. Yeah. And it's only from there that, Mr. Speaker, we will be able now to stand and say we are doing the correct thing for the people of Zambia. Yeah. Transparency. Yeah. Mr. Speaker, this is another tenet of good governance. People ought to know what government is doing. Are we doing that? Yes. Whenever money is being released, Mr. Speaker, in line with what has been allocated from this House, the Minister of Finance is always on air to tell the people of Zambia what exactly is happening. Is that thing happening? The answer is yes. Because we are able to follow now where we are, like I said, and where we are coming from. Mr. Speaker, the other issue is the respect of human rights. These are the rights for the citizens of this country. Mr. Speaker, where we're coming from, everyone is aware that these are things that the people of Zambia never enjoyed. Only those, Mr. Speaker, then, who were affiliated or still to support those who were in power enjoyed this. But what is happening now, Mr. Speaker, every citizen of this country is free to enjoy all the liberties, the freedoms and the rights. Why is it like that, Mr. Speaker? It's because the people now who are at the core in terms of governance, Mr. Speaker, respects the Constitution which the people of Zambia agreed actually to protect, defend, and preserve. And this is the way it's supposed to be. Why was that thing not happening before, Mr. Speaker? The issue was simple. There was greediness and ensuring that people used these same rights by infringing people's rights to attain the political mileage. Is it the case now? The contrary, and this is the way it's supposed to be. Mr. Speaker, the issue of decentralization, we can't talk about it because everyone is there to see what is happening. People in the little setups, Mr. Speaker, are able to make decisions on what they want done, how they want to spend their CDF in this country. Was it there before? The answer is not. Mr. Speaker, it's very important now to realize that people of this country ought to realign themselves towards the goal that we have been fighting for all these years, particularly as in UPND when we are fighting to get in power. Mr. Speaker, people are free now to mingle. People are free to enjoy their rights. People are free, Mr. Speaker, to choose what they want done through the CDF which the New Dawn government has actually provided for the citizens of this country. Further, Mr. Speaker, it's very important also to actually indicate that this New Dawn government, Mr. Speaker, there is no discrimination about it. We are talking of those, Mr. Speaker, who are able to go to universities. Now they have bursaries. Those who unfortunately may be dropped out, Mr. Speaker, we have skills. Secondary schools, bursaries are there. So what are we looking for? The issue of early girl marriage and teenage pregnancy, Mr. Speaker, can be avoided because the New Dawn government, Mr. Speaker, stands to serve the people of Zambia with the respect and with the fear of God, because we are all one. At the end of the day, we have scored compared to those, Mr. Speaker, who always want to redirect and want us to fall in the wrong trap when we have an opportunity to think on what we want to do. Mr. Speaker, with these few words, I submit.
The Honourable Member for Lumezi.
Mr. Speaker, I thank you most sincerely for permitting the voice of Lumezi to speak to this important presidential address. And Mr. Speaker, through you, permit me to congratulate Honorable Ngowani for having been nominated or appointed as Deputy Government Whip. I was not available when it happened. It's only right that I should do that which is correct. Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I'll speak to a few issues that the head of state raised. Mr. Speaker, national values and principles are important in molding the character of our nation. That is on page 1 of the President's speech. Ordinarily, I agree with what the President says, Mr. Speaker. The problem the voice of Lumezi has is that the implementation. Mr. Speaker, sometimes we tend to wonder whether the troops that the President has have undermined him or not. The President says we have declared the drought situation as national disaster. The person he has appointed as Minister of Information goes on camera to say this country is food secure. Should the Zambian people believe what the minister is saying or believe what the President is saying? There is too much of zigzagging, Mr. Speaker. For whatever reasons, I would rather believe what the President says, but the troops that he has at his disposal are doing him a disservice. Mr. Speaker, if you go on page 4, the President says the advantages of social media and the disadvantages. On one hand, we are being told that there is a proposal that for those that do podcasts should go through IBA to be granted a license without being given the conditions of how many viewership you have for you to qualify for that license. Is it one way of closing our opinions or our views down? It's blank. Mr. Speaker, on page 6, the President says our call to our local companies to trade among themselves in order to grow our national balance sheet. In one hand, you are saying you want to grow the balance sheet. In one hand, you are saying you are auditing all contractors in this country. All those contractors that did business in the last 10 years or probably 15 years are potential suspects of criminals. How does this equate to our national values? Mr. Speaker, if you go on page 9, for me that's the elephant in the room. The President says we are committed to deepening our democracy and constitutionalism as the surest way to strengthen our democracy, which way our people can be assured for their freedoms and the right to participate in decision making. This is the elephant in the room, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I know the rules that we found at Parliament do not permit us to debate ourselves. Mr. Speaker, if indeed this is true, we are not going to have leader of opposition that has no following from your left side of the House. If indeed it is true,
Order,
I'm speaking to facts, Mr. Speaker.
Honorable Member, that was not part of the presidential speech.
No, it is.
Listen, Honorable Member, don't involve yourself in issues of a particular political party that you are not member to. And how they elect themselves, it's not your business. So let's just stick to the presidential speech. Because you are not the one to judge who is who. You are an independent member of Parliament. Their political party has got rules and regulations. You can't challenge how they are sent to power. So let's just concentrate to the presidential speech.
Mr. Speaker, graciously I take your guidance And graciously, I must indicate that this says democracy and constitutionalism. I was merely putting my thoughts to this subject matter, knowing very well that it was equally wrong for them to sponsor a member of parliament that came to parliament with a difference of 44 votes. Mr. Speaker, he won with 22,000 votes. 22,000 votes cannot match 44.
Honorable member, I've guided you. I've guided you.
Honorable Speaker,
Yes,
I'm just giving.
So if I've given my guidance, don't contravene. Stick to it, then you will continue debating.
So when the president spoke to democracy and constitutionalism, the president should have been well guided by the authors of the speech that even here at Parliament, where you are preaching democracy, there is undemocratic tendencies taking place. Speaking to these undemocratic tendencies does not make me a UPND member of Parliament. Neither does it make me a PF member of Parliament. It makes me an independent member of Parliament, like one member of Parliament from Luangeni who defeated the closest opponent with 22,000 votes, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker.
Honorable member, may you take your seat. Luangeni is not part of the presidential speech. I don't know why you are bringing it into your context of argument. I think just concentrate on the presidential speech. It will help you. And Zambians will appreciate you more if you debate the presidential speech.
Mr. Speaker, 8 minutes is not sufficient. You blocked point of orders. Now you are getting into my time. Mr. Speaker, the president talked of patriotism and national unity. Honestly, Mr. Speaker, your own members, some of us are victims when you talk of patriotism that have written letters of complaint to your office, and we've never received feedback. But we are the first people to be penalized.
How is that? Is that part of the presidential speech?
Yes. National unity.
No. Honorable member, you know, may you take your seat? You know, earlier I guided Honorable Fuwe. He didn't idea. That's why I curtailed him. And I shouldn't be repeating what I did. Let's just stick to the presidential speech. It will help. You may continue, Honorable Member.
Anyway, Mr. Speaker, the President spoke of having witnessed 2 events, Youth Day and Women's Day, and they were peaceful. Mr. Speaker, the record will show that Chongwe and Chipata witnessed serious violence. Mr. Speaker, when we speak as the people's representative, is not to ridicule the executive, is to give them what is coming out of the masses. They should learn something to say, oh, so there was violence, in case they don't know. Like the president here was talking of buy Z, buy local. Yet this document, Mr. Speaker, is not printed by government printers. So the president has been misled. Today in News Diggers, the leading tabloid, the IG says it's not automatic for you to be granted police bond when arrested. Yet the president said arrested 10 hours, granted bond at 14 hours. So who do you want us to listen to? Maybe the president is being mismanaged. Mr. Speaker, for your own information, if the president called me to help him, I'll help him. Because I've realized that the man means well, but his circle is misleading him. There is no way the president will read a speech printed by a firm that is not local. A speech here. This company is printed here. Shorton Printers Limited. So why should we mislead the president? If the president means well, can we help him? If the team that he has assembled is not helping him, the law allows him to pick from here, and the cream is here, we shall help the president, Mr. Speaker. Maybe you are the best man to deliver this debate, Mr. Speaker. I thank you.
Mm-hmm. Is that a good way of robbing a job for a job? The Honourable Member for Solowes East.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. Allow me to begin by stating some facts that indeed core of leadership is that one, leadership is a core and not an ambition. Leadership is a development, not an accomplishment. Leadership is a task, not a title. Leadership is a function and not a position. And leadership is an adventure and not a destination. And this, Mr. Speaker, is what we saw the President of the Republic of Zambia as he addressed this nation on the progress made in the application of national values on the 15th of March 2024. Mr. Speaker, allow me to debate from the conclusion by His Excellency the President. In his conclusion, he stated 4 fights. He stated that we have been steadfast. Number 1 fight, the fight against corruption, and gave an example that as a nation we have recovered assets that were deemed to be proceeds of crime, and the nation probably needed to be highlighted more on what has been recovered as a way of making the nation aware of what has been recovered. Second fight, the fight against alcohol and substance abuse. And this has been demonstrated, Mr. Speaker, not too long ago when we had an international conference just across here, where the researchers from different parts of the world stated that disability due to alcohol abuse, by 2030, the effects would increase by 40% among the youths, women, and girls. And one of the effects of alcohol, Mr. Speaker, is that when a child is born, can be born with what we call hydrocephalus. The head may look big, but yet it is full of water. And that is being fought. So the third fight against early child marriage. And this we know, Mr. Speaker, that it is detrimental to the development of a nation. And the President stated on this fact. And also the fight against GBV. Mr. Speaker, these were 4 fights that the President concluded with. In addition to that, Mr. Speaker, allow me to state that the President indicated in his speech that we continue to institute crime mitigation. And these measures were highlighted by pointing to the Minister of Home Affairs that can we do something to control the gun issues in this country. That is leadership, because the President is talking about promoting morality, human dignity. And all these efforts, Mr. Speaker, are the values that we are talking about to provide sustainable socio-economic development, which is anchored upon hard work. Mr. Speaker, the President stated that we don't need to go back to the times when laziness was being rewarded by people spreading money on their beds and so on. No, the President is talking about time to work extra hard. And this is the value that we need to see in the nation. Mr. Speaker, as a leader, he stated that admittedly there is much more that we need to do as a nation. And he went further to summarize by talking about patriotism that we have heard other colleagues talk about, national unity, as being the fabric of this nation. Good governance and integrity. And he demonstrated that through the statement that human dignity and social justice is very, very important for this nation. You are arrested at 10 hours, by 14 hours, you must have a bond. And that is integrity to humanity. Mr. Speaker, the President talked about upholding democracy and constitutionalism, the rule of law. This is the value that we are talking about. And that was stated in the speech by the President. Mr. Speaker, not only that, as a leader who has got a vision, he stated that we need to aspire the great nation that we need to see. As it is stated, Mr. Speaker, that a leader aspires to inspire before he expires. That is leadership. Mr. Speaker, in the final part of his conclusion, the President stated that as a nation, as we attain 60 years of independence this year, we need every one of us to strive to be the best that we can be in every aspect of our lives, morally, integrity. We need to strive. And Mr. Speaker, the President talked about every one of us being committed to being good to others. And he demonstrated that when he was walking out of this chamber. Mr. Speaker, somebody uttered bad words against the President. But if it was someone else, out of that anger, probably would have seen exchange of bad words. But as a good leader, he demonstrated that aspect of being good to others. It's like that time in history when someone was being hanged on the cross. One criminal on the other side was, if you are the Son of Man, why can't you save yourself and save us? The other one was, remember me when you come in paradise. That is the heart of a leader, Mr. Speaker. That is the heart of a leader, being good to others. And that is what the President was talking about. So it is a call to leadership that every one of us must be good to others. Because, Mr. Speaker, if we can be good to each other, it is rare that one can get a gun and kill another. It is rare that one can perpetrate crime, corruption. It is rare that we can exchange bad words even in this house. It is rare. Mr. Speaker, a good leader talked about every one of us be able to stand for and live by the national values and principles. I thought, Mr. Speaker, these are the values that the President came to utter to this House and through this House to the nation. Mr. Speaker, I thank you very much for the opportunity given. Thank you.
Thank you. The Honourable Member for Chiengi.
Thank you so much, Mr. Speaker, to give the people of Chiengi this wonderful opportunity. And I just want to say I would like to add a voice on this very important motion. Mr. Speaker, when we look at Article 8 of our Constitution, it talks about morality and ethics, patriotism and national unity, democracy and constitutionalism, human dignity, equity, social justice, equality, and non-discrimination. That's where I want to talk about. I want to talk about non-discrimination. Mr. Speaker, we have a place in this great country called Chiengi District, and it has a constituency called Chiengi. This place is a place which I feel is outside this country. I say so. I've seen the President visiting certain areas, even some top officials of this country, including National Assembly, but they've never bothered to come to Chiengi. Why? They feel those who are in Chiengi are not part of Zambia. And they'll give an excuse of the bad state of the road.
Honourable Member.
They'll give an excuse of saying this because of the bad state of the road. When people live there, they drive on the same road.
May you take your seat, Honourable Member? You're a leader, you don't become insightful. You know what you say goes a long way. So as you debate, ensure that you lead by example. Certain statements may seem to be light, but they go a long way. You should know that you've got a lot of influence to the people that elected you.
I do.
Yes. So,
thank you.
So ensure that...
Even to the Zambians, Mr. Speaker, I do. Mr. Speaker, we're talking about discrimination. We've not received fertilizer. We had plenty and abundance plenty and abundance of water, and rains. Look at our maize. When did we receive the fertilizer? Our people there are going to die of hunger, and yet we're being told we are lazy. We cannot cultivate. How do you cultivate when you're not given farm inputs in time? That's discrimination, Mr. Speaker. Others received their farm inputs much earlier than August. So, Mr. Speaker, the people of Chiengi understand the pain and discrimination that they experience. If you look at the state of the road in Chiengi, from Kashkishi up to Chiengi, only somebody with no brains would think a national road can be constructed using CDF. But one thing is that the road from Kashkishi up to Chiengi Boma is a disaster. A woman died in an ambulance, which a normal human being would not even say use CDF. Because you think of the people dying in an ambulance because the ambulance is stuck. We've been crying over this road. Not even ZNS can fix that road. We need the government to move in quickly, because that's an emergency. That's an emergency, Mr. Speaker. The people of Chienge want to be part and parcel of those who are enjoying the cake that we've heard that everyone is sharing. The national cake, Mr. Speaker. We're talking about discrimination. When it comes to the youth Indaba, Mr. Speaker, check on Facebook. Only the children of UPND officials came, and who are even 30 years old, leaving out the youths who are supposed to come. That's discrimination. The youth Indaba is for every youth in this country, not for
Honorable
politicians.
member, may you take your seat? May you take your seat?
It's a fact.
May you take your seat?
The photos are here.
You should ensure that whatever you submit is factual. Youths from Rwangeni came and they are not UPND officials. So you can't generalize. It says things that you can back with documented evidence that you can lay on the table. So whatever you submit, you have to be factual, not just making assertions. You may continue.
Much obliged, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I'm talking about Chiengi constituency. We are discriminated. We've been promised water. There's no water there. Only somebody who has got something wrong in the head will say CDF. We need water and sanitation, Mr. Speaker. Come to Chiengi and see people dying because they drink salty water. So they cannot even tell what is killing them because of the water that we're drinking in Chiengi. That's discrimination.
And now, Honorable Member, let me guide you. May you take your seat?
Thank you.
If water is what they need in Chiengi the most, and you've got CDF, why don't you drill like we do? So use this CDF to ensure that you attend to people's needs. You may proceed.
Mr. Speaker, even if you drill boreholes, I'm talking of salt. Chiengi is a salt belt. Even if you drill the boreholes, people are drinking poison. I'm talking about good, clean water, which is a human right. We're talking about human dignity, Mr. Speaker. That's what the article says, Article 8, human dignity or human value. So even if we have those boreholes, people are drinking poison. I'm talking about clean water, which every person can drink, that every person, even in this house, can drink, not what they are drinking. You hear people who are cockeyed there, they'll say CDF. We drill, but when you drill, that water is salt water, Mr. Speaker. We need clean water, tap water, which has been purified. That's what I'm talking about. And that's a human right, which the people of Chiengi have been denied. Mr. Speaker, what I want to say is that when we are talking about Indaba, let the minister check who came for the Indaba. We had youths Before, what we used to do, we used to use headmasters in schools to give us pupils from schools. Now you get somebody who's waiting to get employed and you say you are a youth because you are UPND. No, that must stop, Mr. Speaker. This happened in Chiengi. Check who came here and their children. I know the leaders. So that must stop. Every youth in this country deserves to attend the youth endeavor. We don't want those who come here and just clap for the president because they come from a particular political party. They will not be able to let the president what the challenges the youths of Chiengi are facing. So we need the people of Chiengi to partake of this national cake. Whatever it is, it's being distributed equally. Yes, somebody will talk about CDA. It's distributed equally, but I'm talking about the basic human right. We need water, and that is uncompromised. We need clean water just like any other constituents. Our neighbor in Kaputa, they have clean water, but us, we don't have. In Inchelenge, they have clean water, but Chiengi is in the middle, but we don't have. And this is what we are talking about, Mr. Speaker. There should be that equity. And then, let me just wind up, Mr. Speaker. The president talked about equity. If I look at the cabinet of UPND, there are only 3 women there. We need women. We need women in the cabinet. More ministers there, female ministers. We have a lot of them who can do the job. So I would like to remind the president that we need to see the women in strategic positions like ministers. Some ministers, like the Minister of Youth and Sports, should be removed. And then they should put somebody who can interact with the youths freely, because the youths are the future. I thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you. Honorable Member for Chiengi, and I also maybe guide the House. This clean water you are talking about, there's a company called Davidson Sheriff. When you drill a borehole, they've got filters. You buy together with those filters. And then you can run even tap water that you desire using CDF. So if the people of Chiengi really want water, you have CDF, it will help you. The next member, Honorable Member for Soroi Central.
Mungu Central. Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker, for giving a chance to the people of Mungu Central to debate the President's speech on the application of national values and principles. The people of Mungu Central, Mr. Speaker, and I'm sure the people of Chiengi as well, have acknowledged and appreciated the President's speech, because it assures our Zambians, it assures our people that they are in good hands under the new Dawn government. That's why this new Dawn government that cares for all its people in all the 156 constituencies is equally distributing the CDF so that the people's lives can be improved, so that we can minimize on child marriages and teenage pregnancies. That's why we are encouraging our young people to take advantage of the bursaries under CDF to acquire new skills, so that they can go to boarding schools for mahala, for free, under the CDF program, so that we can tackle some of these vices that we have challenges on. Mr. Speaker, CDF programs are keeping our young people busy. They are creating businesses. Right now, as we speak in Mungu Central, next week or so, we'll be giving grants, we'll be giving loans, so that more and more people can begin to start their small businesses, so that we can keep our young people busy. That's what a caring government does. That's what we do to ensure that we improve people's lives. That's what we do to ensure that our people are economically active. That's what was missing under the failed government of PF. That's why even in Chiengi, people now need to realize need to know how to choose their leaders so that they can choose leaders who are able to help them. Let's open our eyes and choose leaders from the new Dawn government who are able to transform this country. Mr. Speaker, the new Dawn government has enacted even the ATI bill, the Access to Information bill. This has been sitting on the shelves of this parliament for many, many years. But because of the vision of our president, the vision of the new Dawn government, this has been passed. It is now law. People have access to information. That's why even the opposition now is free to go on air on every channel. Even ZNBC is covering them. So this idea of the opposition saying there's shrinking democratic space is just their propaganda, which won't even take them anywhere. They know they are enjoying more rights now under the new Dawn government than it was under PF. That's what a good government does. So, Mr. Speaker, the people of Mungu Central are very happy with the president's speech. We talked about dignity. We talked about equality before the law. The president mentioned about these things. Nobody is getting arrested in this country for no apparent reason. You get arrested. You are taken to court. Evidence gets, when you are taken to court, bail is granted to you. Our president was arrested, I think, 16 times or so. Being kept 100 and so many days in prison. So 127 days without, in maximum prison. I mean, is that what you call democracy under the PF government? Nothing at all. Let's learn to give credit where it's due. The new Dawn government is walking the talk. Our president is walking the talk. Our children are in school. Dignity is being seen. Our children now, our parents now, pregnant mothers are now going to schools where there are medicines. There were no medicines in these hospitals other than contraceptives. That's what you left under the new Dawn government. You wanted to shrink the population. Instead of growing the population, growing the economy. That's what you are doing. That's what we are focusing in, so that you can take more money into your pockets instead of distributing money to our people so that they can enjoy the benefits of being a Zambian. That's what was missing under the PF government. But the new Dawn government is delivering to its people new hospitals, new clinics, new schools, new secondary schools, new roads are being built. The people of Chienga have been talking about a road there. Even under PF government, there was no roads there under Chiengi. The roads we are talking about were supposed to have been built by the PF government. But now, under the new Dawn government, there's the National Master Plan for Roads. There's the National Master Plan for Roads. The people of Chiengi will have a road under the new Dawn government. The people of Mungu Central, there will be a road between TBZ and the Kema under the new Dawn government.
For Mungu, we don't debate ourselves. Let's avoid debating each other. You may proceed.
Mr. Speaker, we were saying that under the new Dawn government, there is now a national master plan for roads. Each province will have its roads being attended to. Even the people in Chiengi, the people in Mungu Central. The road between the Tateyoyo and Katunda is now being done. It will be done by the end of this year. That's what the new Dawn government is doing. That's why we are saying, let's give credit where it is due. Mr. Speaker, with those few words, we want to commend the President for a well thought out speech. Thank you very much.
Order, order, order. I honor the Vice President. Adjournment.
Mr. Speaker, I beg to move that the House do now adjourn.
The question is that the House do now adjourn. Any debate, any objection? The question is agreed to. The House is now adjourned.
Well, thank you so much for still being with us on Parliament Television. The House has adjourned till tomorrow at 14:30. And before we leave, a recap of what has been considered on the floor of the House today.
Madam Speaker did make a ruling on the complaint by Mr. C. Andeleki, Member of Parliament for Katombola constituency against Mr. J. E. Banda, Member of Parliament for Pitauke Central constituency, for stating that he was suspended from the National Assembly so that the standing orders could be changed and money could be stolen, in a video footage that had been widely circulated on social media and other media platforms.
And Mr. C. Andeleki MP alleged that Mr. J. E. Banda MP's statement brought the reputation and dignity of the National Assembly into disrepute. He therefore required whether Mr. J. E. Banda MP's conduct did not violate standing orders 2021, 2 and 3, 2031 and 2, and 2071 and 2A and 3 of the National Assembly of Zambia standing orders.
In line with the parliamentary practice and procedure and in accordance with the rules of natural justice, on 3rd January 2024, the Office of the Clerk officially wrote to Mr. J. E. Banda, Member of Parliament, requesting him to state his side of the story on the matter.
In response, Mr. J. E. Banda MP stated that he had not been availed the footage or link to the said footage for him to appreciate the nature of the complaint and respond effectively.
And the matter was referred to the Committee on Privileges and Absences for dissemination. The Committee on Privileges and Absences met and deliberated on the matter on Wednesday, 6 March 2024. Both the complainant and the respondent appeared before the committee and stated their side of the story.
The committee deliberated on the appropriate punishment to mete out to Mr. J. E. Banda MP. In its deliberations, the committee took into consideration the following issues: that Mr. J. E. Banda MP confirmed that the video footage was correctly attributed to him, that although the words complained of were not in the exact order they were stated in the complaint, they were indeed uttered by Mr. J. E. Banda MP, that there was overwhelming evidence to substantiate the allegations against Mr. J. E. Banda MP.
So after due consideration of the above factors, the committee resolved to recommend that Mr. J. E. Banda, Member of Parliament, be suspended from the National Assembly for 30 days in accordance with Section 28(2) of the National Assembly Powers and Privileges Act, which requires a resolution of the House to suspend a member from the House. Madam Speaker fully endorsed the committee's recommendation.
And when the question was put, a division was called. And according to the vote, the House did vote electronically, and according to the vote, the ayes had 70, noes 30, and 1 abstained. And the question was resolved in the affirmative. And after that, the Madam Speaker did proceed to address Mr. J. Banda, telling him that the House was extremely displeased with his utterances on his Facebook page, which was viewed by the general public and the world at large. She did say that the utterances which were unsubstantiated reflected negatively on the House or its members. This conduct was not only disrespectful